My name is Emily Thomas. I'm 38 years old, and I own a small coffee shop in Boston, the kind with warm lights, soft jazz, and regulars who pretend they come for the espresso when really they come to be seen. I'm also a single mom, not by choice. My daughter Anna is 6, small, bright, and the kind of child who laughs with her whole body, like joy is something she can't keep contained. She has my eyes, my stubbornness, and a peanut allergy so severe it has shaped our entire life around a single word: careful. Our family drama happened in August 2023, on a weekend that started like any other and ended with me learning a terrifying truth. Sometimes the people who share your blood are the ones most willing to watch you bleed. That morning, I dropped Anna off at my parents' house for a few hours. I had to attend a close friend's funeral, and I didn't want Anna there. Didn't want her tiny hands holding mine while strangers cried. Didn't want her asking, "Mommy, why is everyone so sad?" when I was barely keeping my own grief stitched together. My parents offered to watch her. They always offered. They just didn't always care the way a child deserves to be cared for. When I pulled into their driveway, I saw another car already parked there. A familiar one. Elena's, my sister. My stomach tightened the way it always did when her name entered the room, even when she wasn't physically there. Elena and I grew up in the same house, ate at the same table, shared the same parents, but somewhere along the way, she decided I was her enemy. Not openly, not loudly. Elena's cruelty was quieter than that. It came in the form of cold stares, sharp silences, and smiles that never touched her eyes. I breathed through it. I always did. Inside, Elena was sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone, like the world owed her entertainment. When she looked up, her eyes flicked over me with a flat, distant expression, as if she were staring at a stranger who'd walked in uninvited. No hello, no warmth. Just silence. Anna, though, didn't notice any of that. She ran to me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and chirped, "Mom, you're back." I hugged her tightly, breathing in the sweet scent of her hair and the faint strawberry shampoo she insisted on using. For a moment, the heaviness of the funeral eased, because when you hold your child, reality narrows down to the one thing that matters. They're here. I thanked my parents for watching her, gathered Anna's little backpack, and headed toward the door. That's when Elena finally spoke. Her voice was calm, but it had a chill underneath it, like ice hidden in velvet. "Remember to be at my place at 5, she said, for Lily's birthday." Lily was her daughter, turning 5 that day. Elena had invited Anna and me a few days earlier, and I'd said yes because I didn't want Anna to miss out on seeing her cousin. I planned to take her around 4:30, let her hold a gift bag, let her eat cake I'd triple-checked for allergens. I nodded at Elena. Didn't argue, didn't smile. With Elena, anything could become a fight if she wanted it to. Back home, I told Anna to draw while I finished some work. Running a coffee shop means you're never really off. Inventory issues, staff schedules, a broken refrigerator that always seems to choose the worst day to malfunction. I opened my laptop in my home office. Anna went to her room with her crayons and paper, humming softly. She loved drawing our family. Always the same theme: me, her, and the parents she imagined in the sky. In Anna's pictures, her dad was always smiling. Ryan, my husband. Her father. He died in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. He was a nurse, one of the ones who kept showing up when the world was shutting down. He saved so many lives, and in the end, he couldn't save himself. When Ryan died, Anna was 3, too young to understand why Daddy wasn't coming home, too young to understand that gone could mean forever. I promised myself after that funeral, his funeral, that I would protect our daughter at any cost. Because Anna wasn't just my child. She was the last living piece of the man I loved. About an hour into work, I heard something strange from Anna's room. A sound that didn't belong in a house that was supposed to be safe. Dry coughing. Wheezing. A choking noise, like air itself had turned against her. My heart stopped. I shoved back from the desk so fast my chair hit the wall and I ran. When I burst into Anna's room, the scene stole my breath. Anna was on the floor. Her face was bright red. Her lips were swelling. Her eyes were wide open, glassy with panic, locked on me like I was the last lifeline in the world. She was trying to breathe and failing. And in one horrifying second, my body recognized what my mind didn't want to accept. Peanut allergy. Severe. Life-threatening. No, 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 I whispered, dropping to my knees beside her. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my phone. I dialed 911 with fingers that felt numb. "My daughter," I choked out to the operator. "She's 6. Severe peanut allergy. She can't breathe. Please, please come right away." The operator instructed me. calm and firm. I loosened Anna's clothes, positioned her the way they told me, held her hand in mine, and talked to her like my voice could keep her anchored. Stay with me, baby. I'm here. Mommy's here. Help is coming. You're not alone. Anna's fingers squeezed mine weakly, like she was afraid that if she let go, she'd disappear. The ambulance arrived in what felt like both a second and a lifetime. Paramedics rushed in, assessed her, and moved with terrifying speed. An epinephrine shot, an oxygen mask, a stretcher. And then we were in the ambulance, sirens screaming, the city blurring past us like nothing mattered except the small body beside me. At the hospital, Anna was taken straight to the emergency room. I sat outside, clasping my hands together so tightly my knuckles turned white. I prayed, God, the universe, Ryan's soul, anyone listening, please don't take her too. When the doctor finally came out, he looked at me with a steady calm. Your little girl is out of danger, he said. We've controlled the allergic reaction. She's stable. She's sleeping from the medication. My knees almost gave out. Tears came fast and hot. Relief, exhaustion, terror leaking out of me all at once. But then the doctor's tone shifted. According to protocol, he continued, we've reported this incident to the police and child protective services. This is a serious case involving a child. We need to determine what caused this. I nodded because I understood. But my mind was screaming one question over and over. What did Anna eat? There were no peanut products in my home. None. I checked every label, every snack, every ingredient. I had built my entire kitchen around her safety. So where did the peanuts come from? While Anna slept, I messaged our family group chat, my parents and Elena. My hands trembled as I typed, Anna's in the ER. Situation is terrible. 3 minutes later, seen by all of them. No reply. No call. No, is she okay? Nothing. I tried to tell myself they were on their way, that they were panicking too much to respond, that they'd burst through the doors any moment. An hour passed. No one came. Later, I was finally allowed into Anna's room. She looked so small in that hospital bed, her lips still slightly swollen, her skin pale like she'd used up every ounce of strength just to survive. I sat next to her, holding her hand, drowning in guilt. If I wasn't so obsessed with work, if I was watching her, if I was in the room when she ate whatever she ate, around 6:00 p.m., I picked up my phone, an old habit, a mindless attempt to escape my own thoughts, and opened social media. And my world tilted. On Elena's page, a new photo had just been posted, a selfie. Everyone smiling beside Lily's birthday cake, my parents beaming on either side, Elena glowing like this was the happiest day of her life. They were celebrating. They were laughing, while my daughter was lying in a hospital bed after nearly dying. My blood turned hot. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. I scrolled and saw more. Lily blowing out candles, glasses raised, my parents hugging Lily with a caption that made my stomach twist. Our beloved granddaughter. Beloved. Not Anna. Not the child fighting for air. Something in me cracked open. Something I didn't realize had been quietly breaking for years. I typed into the family group chat with fingers that felt like fire. I demanded to know what kind of people could read my message and still choose cake and photos over their grandchild's life. Mom finally replied, there are doctors taking care of it. Don't overreact. Then Elena, it's just an allergy. She won't die from it. I stared at those words, and it felt like cold water poured over my soul. Not because they were cruel, because they were so effortless. Like Anna's life was an inconvenience. I called them. Dad. No answer. Mom, no answer. Elena, no answer. They were ignoring me on purpose. And that's when I realized something I didn't want to admit. In their eyes, Anna and I had never mattered the way Elena and her life mattered. Around 7 p.m., my phone rang. Grandpa Robert. He was 82 then. Strict, old school, but with a backbone made of steel. He lived alone in the suburbs, in the house he built with my grandmother before she passed. The moment I answered, he asked, worried, Emily, why didn't you bring Anna to Lily's birthday? Did something happen? And I broke. I told him everything, every detail, every fear, every bitter silence. He didn't gasp, he didn't ask questions. He just said, I'm coming right now. An hour later, Grandpa appeared at the hospital door. He walked to Anna's bed, stroked her hair gently, then turned to me with eyes that looked darker than usual. Did you tell your parents? He asked. I showed him the group chat, the scene, the cold replies. His jaw tightened, his hands curled into fists. I'll get justice for you, he said. Trust me. That night, he stayed until almost 10:00 p.m. Before he left, he looked at Anna one last time, like he was memorizing her breathing. The next morning, Grandpa was there again at 7 o'clock a.m. with coffee and sandwiches, insisting I eat. Around 8 o'clock a.m., Anna slowly woke up, blinking like she was returning from somewhere far away. I kissed her forehead, my voice shaking. "Are you feeling better? I'm here." She nodded weakly and gripped my hand like she couldn't risk losing me. At 9 o'clock p.m., police and CPS arrived to ask Anna what happened. A gentle middle-aged CPS worker spoke softly, keeping her tone light so Anna wouldn't be afraid. Anna listened, then turned her face toward me. Her eyes were wide, not just with lingering fear, but with worry, like she thought she'd done something wrong. She squeezed my hand and whispered, barely loud enough to hear, "Mom, Aunt Elena gave me the cookie. She told me not to tell you." In that moment, the hospital room felt like it shrank around me, and every cold stare, every silence, every seen message suddenly made sense. For a second, I couldn't hear anything. Not the soft beep of the monitor beside Anna's bed, not the shuffling footsteps of the CPS worker, not the quiet murmur of the two police officers standing near the door. All I heard was Anna's whisper replaying in my skull like a siren. "Aunt Elena gave me the cookie. She told me not to tell you." I stared at my daughter, 6 years old, pale, tired, still swollen around the lips, and my mind tried to reject what my heart already knew. Because Elena didn't forget, Elena didn't make accidents. Elena calculated. My throat tightened until it felt like I was swallowing glass. I forced myself to breathe slowly, the way the paramedics had told me the night before, the way I'd been telling Anna to breathe. Stay calm, not for them, for her. I crouched beside Anna's bed and kept my voice soft, even though my chest felt like it was splitting open. "Baby, can you tell me when she gave you the cookie?" Anna's eyes flicked toward the police officers, then back to me. She looked guilty, like she'd broken a rule. That guilt nearly destroyed me. She hadn't broken anything. She'd been tricked. Anna swallowed and whispered, "Yesterday, at Grandma and Grandpa's house." The CPS worker leaned forward gently. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just tell us what you remember." Anna nodded, clinging to my fingers. "Aunt Elena came," she continued, "and she was on her phone. Then, later, she went out. And when she came back, she called me over and said I was being good." My nails dug into my own palm. I didn't feel pain. I felt heat, pure, violent heat. "She gave me a bag," Anna said. "Cookies." She said, "It was our secret." I could see it now, like it was happening in front of me. Elena crouching down, her voice sweet in that fake way she used when she wanted something. Her finger to her lips, her eyes watching to make sure Anna believed her. Anna, desperate to be liked, desperate to feel special. And Elena, using that. When we got home, Anna's voice got smaller. "You were working. I was hungry, so I ate one." A wave of nausea rolled through me. My hands began to shake again. I looked up at the police officer, my voice cracking. She knew. Elena knew. I've told them 1,000 times. Every family gathering, every holiday. I say it again and again. No peanuts, ever. The officer nodded slowly, watching me like he was measuring whether I might explode. Then I did. I stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. My voice tore out of me, raw and loud. "That cookie had peanuts in it. She tried to hurt my daughter." Anna flinched. The sound of her fear, her shoulders shrinking, her eyes widening, was like someone throwing ice water directly on my rage. The police officer stepped forward quickly, palm raised. "Ms. Thomas, I understand you're upset, but you need to calm down." Upset. My child had been choking on the floor of our home, turning red, swelling, trying to breathe like the air was a locked door. "Calm down." My laugh came out sharp, broken. "She almost died." The second officer's voice turned firmer. "If you use violence, you'll be the one in legal trouble." The CPS worker spoke next, her tone soft but heavy, like she was placing a weight carefully in my hands. "Emily, I know you're in pain, but please think about Anna. She's already lost one parent. She can't lose you too. If you get arrested, who takes care of her?" That was the moment my rage hit a wall. Not because I suddenly forgave Elena, not because I suddenly trusted the system, but because I looked down and saw Anna's eyes. She was staring at me like I was a storm. And she was so small, so fragile, so scared. I forced my shoulders to drop. I took a deep breath that tasted like metal and failure. "You're right," I whispered, mostly to myself. "You're right." I sat back down and took Anna's hand again, holding it like it was the only solid thing left in my world. The CPS worker smiled gently at Anna. "You did a brave thing by telling the truth." Anna nodded, but I could tell she still felt like she'd betrayed someone. "Elena did that. Even now, Elena's poison is in my child's mind." The officers asked a few more questions, took notes, and promised they'd investigate thoroughly. They told me they would need any remaining cookies, packaging, receipts, anything that could help. When they finally left, the room got quiet again. Too quiet. It was the kind of quiet that lets grief crawl out from the corners and sit beside you. I bowed my head, pressing my forehead against Anna's blanket. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "I should have watched you. I should have—" A warm hand touched my shoulder. I turned and saw him standing in the doorway. Michael, my boyfriend. He wasn't Anna's father. That place in our lives was forever Ryan's. But Michael had been steady, patient, gentle with both of us. He never tried to replace anyone. He just showed up, again and again, like love was a choice he kept making every day. He crossed the room quietly and kissed the top of my head. "I came as soon as I saw your message," he murmured. "How is she?" I didn't trust my voice, so I just shook my head and blinked until my vision cleared. Michael's gaze moved to Anna. His face softened, then tightened with something darker, controlled fury. Anna gave him a small, tired smile. "Hi, Michael." "Hey, Peanut," he said gently, using the nickname he'd given her long ago. Then his eyes flicked back to mine. "What happened?" I swallowed. "Elena." Just one word. Michael's jaw clenched. He didn't ask me if I was sure. He didn't try to soften it. He knew my family. He knew Elena. He exhaled slowly. "Okay, what do you need from me?" That question, simple, steady, almost broke me more than anything else. Because my parents hadn't asked that question. My sister hadn't asked it. Only Michael did. Before I could answer, the door opened again. "Grandpa Robert." He walked in with a paper cup of coffee in one hand and a bag of pastries in the other, like he could feed me back into being a functioning human. His eyes went straight to Anna. He stepped to her bedside and brushed her hair back with a tenderness that made my throat burn. Then his gaze turned to me. "Tell me," he said. So I did. I told him every word Anna had said. I watched his face change as I spoke, like a storm building slowly over an ocean. When I finished, he turned his head slightly, looking toward the window as if he needed to steady himself. Then he spoke low and dangerous. "She did it on purpose." Michael nodded once. "That's what it sounds like." Grandpa's fingers tightened around the coffee cup until the lid bent. I'd never seen Grandpa Robert lose control, not in my entire life. He was the kind of man who believed in discipline, in consequences, in doing what needed to be done without complaint. But in that moment, I saw something else. I saw a man who had lived long enough to recognize evil when it wore a familiar face. "I'm going to handle this," he said. I looked at him sharply. "Grandpa." He raised a hand. "Emily, you stay with Anna. You do not go near Elena. You hear me?" My mouth opened, but no words came out. Because the truth was, I didn't trust myself. If Elena had been in that room at that moment, I'm not sure I would have remembered I was a mother. I'm not sure I would have remembered laws. I might have become something I couldn't take back. Grandpa's voice softened, but it didn't lose its steel. "You can't give Elena another weapon. If you lose control, she'll use it to paint you as unstable. She'll take your child away from you in court if she can." That hit me like a punch. Because Elena was that kind of person. The kind who would hurt a child and then cry victim. The kind who would destroy you and call it self-defense. I nodded slowly. "Okay." Grandpa turned to Michael. "You, stay with them. Keep her steady." Michael straightened. "Yes, sir." Grandpa's eyes returned to me. "And you," he said, pointing slightly at my chest. "Eat something. You're no help to her if you collapse." I wanted to argue, but my body betrayed me with a wave of dizziness. I hadn't eaten since yesterday. I took a pastry with trembling fingers and forced myself to swallow, even though it tasted like ash. Around noon, a nurse came in and checked Anna's vitals. She smiled gently. "She's doing well," she said. "We'll keep her here for observation for a couple more days, but she's stable." Stable. The word sounded like mercy. Michael stayed with us. Grandpa came and went, making phone calls in the hallway with the kind of quiet intensity that made other people move out of his way. And me? I sat beside Anna, holding her hand, staring at the door like I expected Elena to walk in, wearing that cold smile and say it was all a misunderstanding. But she didn't come. Neither did my parents. Not to see Anna. Not to apologize. Not even to pretend. By late afternoon, the police called. They asked if there were any remaining cookies. I blinked, remembering. "Elena gave her 3, I said slowly. "Anna only ate 1. Michael's eyes widened. "Emily, the other 2 might still be at home." My stomach dropped. Because if those cookies were still in my house, they weren't just proof. They were a reminder of how close we came to losing her. "I'll go," Michael said immediately, already reaching for his keys. Grandpa shook his head. "I'll go with him." I started to protest. My home felt too violated to let anyone else step into it, but Grandpa cut me off. "Stay here," he said firmly. "You don't leave Anna." So Michael and Grandpa went. I sat alone with Anna, listening to her breathe, watching the rise and fall of her chest, like it was the only rhythm keeping the universe in balance. "Mom," Anna whispered. I leaned closer. "Yes, baby?" Her eyes looked watery. "Am I in trouble?" My heart cracked. I cupped her cheeks gently, careful not to hurt her swollen skin. "No," I whispered fiercely. "Never. You're not in trouble. You did nothing wrong. You understand me?" Anna nodded, but her lower lip trembled. "Aunt Elena said it was a secret. She said you'd be mad if I told." A cold, sick anger coiled in my stomach. Elena hadn't just tried to poison my child. She'd tried to poison her trust in me. I kissed Anna's forehead. "I'm mad," I said softly, "but not at you. I'm mad at the person who lied to you." Anna's eyes searched mine. "She lied?" "Yes," I said, "and Mommy is going to make sure she can never do that again." 2 hours later, Grandpa returned with Michael. Michael held a plastic evidence bag. Inside it, a small, innocent-looking package of cookies. Grandpa's face was stone. "We found them," Michael said quietly, "in her backpack." In Anna's backpack. The place meant for crayons and tiny treasures and safety. I covered my mouth with my hand, fighting nausea. Grandpa took the bag from Michael and looked at me. "I'm going to bring this to the police," he said, "tonight." I nodded, barely able to speak. Michael stepped closer, his hand sliding into mine. His grip was warm, steady. And then, like the universe had waited for the evidence to appear before flipping the next page, the hospital door opened. I expected a nurse. I expected a doctor. But instead I saw two familiar figures. My mother and father. Their faces weren't worried. They weren't regretful. They were angry. And the moment my father opened his mouth, I knew they hadn't come for Anna. They'd come for Elena. My father didn't look at Anna. Not once. His eyes locked onto me the second he stepped into the room, sharp and accusing, like I was the one who had committed a crime. "What did you do?" he demanded. "Why are there police at Elena's house?" I stood up slowly. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to shield Anna, so I positioned myself slightly in front of her bed before answering. "We're not doing this in here," I said, my voice low but firm. "Get out of my daughter's room." My mother scoffed. "Oh, please, don't act dramatic. She's fine now, isn't she?" That sentence, "she's fine now," hit me harder than a slap. I stepped into the hallway and waited until they followed, then closed the door behind us. Only then did I let the rage surface. "Elena deliberately gave Anna cookies with peanuts," I said. "She knew Anna could die, and she told her to keep it a secret." My mother shook her head immediately, dismissive. "That's impossible. Elena wouldn't do that." "She admitted she bought the cookies," I shot back. "The police tested them. They contained peanuts." My father crossed his arms. "Even if that's true, you didn't have to call the police. She's your sister." "And Anna is your granddaughter," I said. "Where were you when she was choking on the floor?" Silence. Then my father waved his hand. "It was an allergic reaction. She didn't die. You're blowing this out of proportion." Something inside me snapped. "She almost did," I said, my voice shaking. "And you were smiling for photos at a birthday party." My mother's face twisted. "You're ruining Elena's life. She has a child. What kind of mother does that to her own sister?" I stared at her, stunned. "What kind of aunt tries to kill a child?" I asked quietly. That's when Grandpa Robert appeared, at the end of the hallway. He took in the scene, my parents' anger, my trembling hands, the closed hospital room door behind me, and his expression hardened. "What are you doing here?" he asked. My father turned on him immediately. "Dad, tell Emily to drop this. Elena made a mistake." "A mistake," Grandpa repeated. "A mistake is forgetting a birthday, not poisoning a child." My mother scoffed. "You're always taking her side." Grandpa's eyes burned. "I am taking the child's side." My parents left shortly after, furious and unapologetic, not even glancing back toward Anna's room. Not even once. 2 weeks later, the trial began. Because the case involved a child and clear evidence of intent, everything moved fast. I didn't take Anna to court. I left her with a neighbor who knew nothing except that Mommy had important work to do. Michael drove me to the courthouse. Grandpa was already there, waiting for us, straight-backed despite his age. On the other side of the room, my parents sat beside Elena. She looked smaller than I remembered, pale, nervous. But when her eyes met mine, there was no remorse, only resentment. The prosecutor laid out the evidence clearly. The peanut-containing cookies, the medical reports, Anna's statement, Elena's admission that she bought and gave them to my daughter. Then the judge turned to Elena. "Why?" he asked sternly. "Did you give a child with a known severe peanut allergy a cookie containing peanuts?" The courtroom went silent. Elena's lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently, but Elena shook her head. She lifted her chin and answered, "I didn't want them at my daughter's birthday." The room froze. The judge frowned. "Explain." Elena's voice wavered, not with guilt, but bitterness. "Every time Anna shows up, everyone feels sorry for her. She lost her father, so she gets all the attention. My daughter gets ignored. I just wanted Lily to have one day where she was the center of attention." I felt like I couldn't breathe. She had tried to kill my child because she was jealous of a 6-year-old. The defense argued Elena was under stress, emotionally unstable, never intending serious harm. But the judge wasn't convinced. The verdict came down heavy and final. 2 years in prison. A restraining order barring Elena from any contact with Anna. Damages awarded for medical and emotional harm. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I felt hollow. 2 years for almost taking my daughter's life felt like a whisper where a scream belonged. I jumped to my feet. "That's it?" I shouted. "If my daughter hadn't been saved in time, she'd be dead." The judge banged the gavel, ordering silence. Grandpa's hand gripped my arm, pulling me back down. "Don't," he murmured. "This isn't the end." I trusted him. When we left the courtroom, my parents stood in our path. My father looked at me with hatred. "You're not my daughter anymore." I met his eyes, calm in a way that surprised even me. "You stopped being my parents the day you chose Elena over Anna." We walked away, and behind us, a chapter closed that would never reopen. 3 days after the trial, Grandpa Robert called. His voice was calm, too calm. "Emily," he said, "I'm calling a family meeting. Everyone needs to be there." I knew instantly this wasn't about reconciliation. It was about consequences. "What kind of meeting?" I asked. "A meeting about the truth," he replied, "and about my assets." My hand tightened around the phone. Grandpa didn't threaten. He didn't posture. When he spoke like that, things changed. The meeting was held at Grandpa's house, the same house he had built decades ago with my grandmother, brick by brick, long before my parents ever felt entitled to anything. I brought Anna with me. Some people might have thought it was inappropriate, but I wanted her beside me. I wanted her to see, one day when she was older, that someone had stood up for her without hesitation. Michael came too, sitting slightly behind us, his presence steady and grounding. When we arrived, my parents were already there. So were my uncles, aunts, and a few distant relatives, the kind who always hovered around my parents when there was money or advantage involved. Elena wasn't there. She couldn't be. She was already in prison. The room was tense before Grandpa even spoke. When he finally stood, leaning lightly on his cane, every voice went quiet. "I called you all here," he said evenly, "because I want witnesses. What I'm about to say cannot be twisted later." My father crossed his arms, already scowling. Grandpa continued. "The house your family lives in," he said, nodding toward my parents, "is mine. It has always been mine. I allowed you to live there." My father shot to his feet. "Dad, what is this?" "I'm taking it back," Grandpa said calmly. The room erupted. "That's our home," my father shouted. "No," Grandpa corrected him. "It's my property, and I'm reclaiming it." My mother stood too, her voice shrill. "You're doing this because of Emily. You're punishing us." Grandpa turned to her slowly. "I'm doing this because you defended a woman who poisoned a child," he said, "and because you blamed that child for the consequences." Silence slammed down. Then Grandpa delivered the real blow. "I've also updated my will," he said. "Effective immediately. Your names have been removed." My father lunged forward, furious, but my uncles restrained him. "You can't do this," my father screamed. "You're senile." Grandpa didn't flinch. "I am of sound mind," he said, "and I won't leave a single dollar to people who endanger a child and call it family." My mother turned then, her eyes wild, and pointed straight at Anna. "This is all because of her," she spat. "She ruined our family." Anna froze. Her small hand tightened around mine, her body instinctively pressing behind me. I stepped forward instantly, placing myself fully in front of her. "Do not speak about my daughter," I said, my voice shaking with controlled fury. Grandpa slammed his cane against the floor. "Get out," he ordered. "Now, or I will call the police." My parents stared at him, stunned. Then at me. Then at Anna. And for the last time, they walked away without a word of apology, without a glance back. 2 years passed. 2 long, quiet, healing years. Anna changed schools. She made new friends. She laughed more freely. Therapy helped untangle the fear Elena had planted in her mind. I rented out the house Grandpa reclaimed. I couldn't live there. Too many ghosts, but the income went straight into Anna's future. I kept running my coffee shop. Michael stayed, steady, patient, loving in ways that didn't demand repayment. Grandpa aged, but his presence never weakened. Every weekend, Anna ran into his arms, chattering about school and drawings and dreams. My parents moved to another state after losing everything. No one followed them. Elena was released after 2 years. The restraining order remained. I made sure of that. As for me, I learned something that nearly losing my child burned into my soul. Family isn't blood. Family is who protects your child when it matters most.